power in times of fear and war? Indeed, Lincoln's test of a man is also a true test for a nation. To test a nation's belief in freedom, challenge the people with the emotions of fear and vengeance that often accompany war. As the judge points out, our history is replete with examples of our nation in time of war succumbing to fear and choosing to restrict the very freedom we ostensibly were fighting for. If I told you that a country passed laws that imprisoned a pastor for 15 years for Christian pacifism, you might think I was talking of Iran. If I told you that a woman was imprisoned for 10 years for criticizing her government, you might think I was speaking of the Gulag in the Soviet Union. If I told you that a salesman was arrested and imprisoned for 7 to 20 years for calling wartime regulations a big joke, you would think I was surely exaggerating or even making it up. I'm not. Each horrific instance occurred in America, the land of the free. Make no mistake, I believe America to be the greatest, freest nation ever conceived. But that doesn't mean we should let a Pollyanna tint obscure the times in our history when we retreated from liberty instead of manning the barricades. In Suicide Pact, Judge Napolitano describes these miscarriages of justice. From the Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798 to the Espionage Act of 1917 to the Patriot Act of 2001, fear and prejudice clouded our judgment and caused us to choose security over liberty. Now, President Obama says he just wants to balance liberty and national security. Judge Napolitano succinctly answers President Obama. To Napolitano, it isn't possible to balance rights and security because rights and national security are essentially and metaphysically so different that they cannot be balanced against each other. Rights are inherent and a natural extension of self. National security is a commodity that is purchased as a result of a mixing of an individual's labor and resources. A good may be desired, but isn't a right. You can't have a right to someone else's labor. You can't have a right to a thing or a good because that implies that you somehow have a right to the person's labor that created that good. National security is not a right. It is a good that requires someone's labor, and anyone who thinks you can or should trade liberty, a right, for security, a good, misunderstands the concept of natural rights. I had this discussion with Senator Bernie Sanders, the socialist from Vermont. He seemed astonished when I maintained that health care cannot be a right because it would imply that someone has a right to the physician's or nurse's or hospital janitor's labor. Judge Napolitano doggedly points out that this fundamental misunderstanding of rights has time and time again caused us to relinquish our rights, particularly in time of war. Even when members of Congress try to correct a problem, they often get it only half correct. The judge describes the Non-Detention Act of 1971, a belated response to the injustice perpetrated by the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. As the judge points out, Congress changed the law but didn't outlaw detention, just shifted the power from the president back to Congress. Detention was still allowed pursuant to an act of Congress. This point still has great significance. In 2011, Congress passed the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, and expanded the possibility of indefinite detention of American citizens without trial. In fact, when I debated Senator McCain on the Senate floor, I was incredulous. I asked, does this mean an American citizen could be detained indefinitely and sent to Guantanamo Bay without a jury trial? McCain replied, if they're dangerous. Aghast, I shot back, sort of begs the question, doesn't it? About who gets to decide who's dangerous and who's not? In trying to fix this language, I begrudgingly supported the Feinstein-Lee Amendment, even though it still contained the language allowing detention pursuant to an act of Congress. In 2013, I fought to alter the language by inserting the words consistent with the Constitution to make it clear that detention would require a jury trial. My understanding was that the language was acceptable to promoters of the amendment, but we never got a chance as Senator Harry Reid killed the filibuster by breaking the rules of the Senate. Previously, it required a two-thirds majority vote to change Senate rules. Harry Reid used the nuclear option to change the rules with only a simple majority. Caught up in the melee was our effort to kill indefinite detention. Harry Reid quashed all amendments, and we are forced to wait for another day to take up the fight. Maybe the biggest constitutional question of our day is whether or not a judge's